Hi, I'm Lindy Whitten. Welcome to the studio. Just recently did a demonstration of this sunny beach scene for you, and now I want to show you how to cheaply frame it using a store-bought frame. These are supplies you need. So I've got some offcuts of mat board or foam core, and then Stanley craft knife and some framing tape. Here I have just a store-bought frame. One of the things when you're buying a frame to be careful about is what the corners are like. Now, I can't actually see the corners on here, so I'm taking a bit of a gamble. We'll see when we open it up. But you want to make sure there's no gaps in there. And this has got some protectors on, and they often have protectors on. I have been known to take the plastic off in a shop and have a look at the corners. When we're framing, we want to make sure we're framing with acid-free supplies, and this is probably not an acid-free mat. You can contend with that by just painting the back of it with some gesso, some white, some artist's acrylic paint. On the back of it, it's got MDF, and again, this is probably not acid-free. So if you want to keep your painting, if you're worried about it deteriorating over the years, then you can do the same. You can seal the inside of this. So once we've done that, we just take our Stanley knife, take it off, and we get to that all important part in a moment of checking the corners. So on this one, I'm very lucky. The corners are really good, really well joined. And so it's a wooden frame, and I like using wooden frames because they'll go with most subjects, and you can actually paint them. If you don't like the colour of it, you could actually paint them. So I just go around checking for imperfections, and then I'll turn it over. One other instrument, and that's just a plain kitchen knife. And you'll see inside the frame there's some little tabs. You just bend them up. That's what's holding in your backing board. Bend those up so that you can take it out. Right flat against the sides, and then I use my knife just to gently prise out the backing board. And there's my backing board. I'll then take out the insert. And there I have my mat. And what I'm going to do now is just take my painting, and I now move the frame away, take the mat out of the frame, move the frame away, and then I'll take the mat and place it over my painting to make sure I'm going to have it where I want to have it. So that's all good. With pastel, what you need to do, because they've got loose pastel dust on it and some of it might fall off, if I just leave it framed like this with the mat flat against the painting, the dust, if it falls off, it's going to fall down onto that beveled lip of my mat and down here and look very unattractive. Scraps that I've got, I now need to cut into strips and use them to just build a little square around there. So now I've cut my 4 pieces that I'm going to make into the frame. Another little trick you can use if you're worried about the pastel dust coming down is this. You can see the beveled edge here, just here. You can turn it over and use it without the beveled edge, so that when the dust comes down, it hits the bevel and goes behind it. And I actually like the colour better on the back of this. It's a creamier colour, not stark white. So I'm going to use the back of the mat board. And what I do is I just lay my piece of scrap mat on there, or whatever you're using, cut it so that it's sitting inside the mat. Another thing you need to remember when you're doing this is being careful what you're laying that mat on, because you do not want any pastel dust to get on it. So I've actually put down some clean card underneath it and the insert from there we go, and one more here. Maybe a little bit less there. Okay, so now you can see that I've got a little internal frame that's just going to raise my painting slightly off the mat board. And now I just take some of my framing tape, I run it along like so, and just seal all the edges there, and take my Stanley knife and just cut down there, peeling it off. Same here. And then I'm just going to do all the sides of that. So you've got to this stage now. I've actually cut, because I have some here, some foam core that I'm going to use as my backing, and I just laid the MDF sheet that came with the frame on the back of it and cut around it. And now I'm going to carefully take my painting. If you've got any pastel dust anywhere, just use a putty rubber and give it a little rub over, and that'll clean any surfaces that you might want to clean. So now I'm positioning this in the middle of my painting. I'm taking my mat again and popping it over to make sure I've got it in the right position. And I haven't quite got it in the right position because I can see a little bit of the backing paper there. So I give it another position. And when I'm happy that it's in the right position, that my horizon is straight and level, which is another important thing, and that I'm not seeing any of the backing, and I still am seeing a little bit of the background colour. Just going to put that on again. When I'm checking my horizon, I often just take a ruler, lay it over the top and check, yes, that's just under 19. Yes, that's, yep. I'm happy that my horizon line is straight. You can see here that it's in the right position. So now I pop back down that. So what I'm going to do now is just take a very small bit of tape and put it straight on there. Now I know it's staying in the right spot. Now people do this differently. This is the way I frame them because I really don't want my pastel to move. So I'll take the tape and run it along there, leaving a good amount of space between the tape and the actual painting area, because I do not want that paint to accidentally show through. And there we are, I've got that taped on. Now I don't actually need to tape anything more. Sometimes on my larger paintings I'll tape all the way around, but that's enough to hold it in place. Then this goes on, and I've got those little spaces that are going to keep it just a wee bit away from there. And now my next job is to go around and just check that I haven't got any little tiny bits of pastel dust on this. It's a meticulous job just checking your mat, because there's nothing worse than getting it all framed up and then you find you've got dust in there. Now I'm going to be putting it into the frame. What I've got here is a glasses cleaning cloth, and I'm just going to wipe it all over the inside. And look out for any scratches that have got on your glass too. I can see a small one on here, but I'm hoping that it'll be in a spot that won't actually give me any problems. Then I take my mat, lay it into there. You might have to just bend it slightly to get it underneath those, just curve it slightly to get it underneath those little metal clips that we used earlier. And now I'm just taking my pastel, making sure my fingers are holding the bottom here so that I don't, again, just lay it in there. I want to make sure I can see those. Now at this point I take the knife and I just flip down one on the bottom and one on the top so I can check, and I do that by turning it over and looking at it. And at this point I want to check all the areas. Have I got anything showing that I don't want showing? Fortunately, the little bit of a scratch is in a position where I don't have to worry about it. Have I got anything else on there? This is what it's like. I've got one tiny little dot down there I can see, and one tiny little dot up here on the mat board or the glass, I'm not sure which, so I'm just going to do it again. This is what you have to be prepared to do if you want to frame your own. You have to be prepared to take it in and out a number of times, because of the dust. I do not want to put fixative on my paintings. I really don't like it. It makes them dark and dull, so that I'd rather spend all this time cleaning up and re-cleaning just to make sure I have nothing on there, rather than try and use fixative in there. Back in it goes. When I paint, I often put my painting on a pre-prepared piece of mat board before I even start, tape it on there securely, and then when I'm finished, it's all ready to pop up into the frame because I've measured it already to the frame size I'm going to use, and then it becomes my backing board. I'm being optimistic now. I'm pushing all those down like so all the way around, so they're nice and flat against your backing board, the MBF board if you use that, or your foam core if you use that. So now I have all the little metal holders in, and I'm very happy with that. So I'm happy with that. I then want to seal it up so that no moisture is going to get into it. So I lay a piece of tape close to the edge of the frame. I take my Stanley knife and my craft knife, and I just cut down there just inside the frame on each edge. You don't want moisture getting into your painting and ruining it, especially if you live in a very humid place. And then what I'm going to do is just cut up into the corners with a pair of scissors, like so. Cut up into the corners. Then I, from the middle, push down all the way along. I don't worry if I get some little creases in it. It's hard to get it because it's all gummed up to get it perfect. And then down that side, just making sure it sticks on the back there. That's good. Now what I want to do is just fix the corners, and I'm just going to get a little bit of a square piece and push it into the corners like so, sealing them down. Sealing it all around. You have to remember, unless you're going to be, selling these professionally, no one's going to pay much attention to the back of it once you've hung it on the wall. So if they've got a few imperfections, that's fine. I don't get hung up on the back of them. I'm a bit hung up on the front, but not on the back. So I'm just pushing it into the corners. So now I have all of the corners covered. And now, before I put the hanging wires in, I just want to check the front again, make sure it's all good, and make sure I'm putting the hanging wires from the top down. So here I have some just flat metal rings, triangular metal rings with a flat piece with some holes. And it's got a little bit of a curve, and that's what I lay against the edge, so that that curvy side there is laying down and the flat side is laying up. I position it on my frame, put a little screw in, and I want to use a flat screw, flat-headed screw, or a nice smooth round one. I don't want to leave things that can catch. And then I just screw it in. Most of these frames you're not going to need to pre-drill a hole. I don't want to pre-drill a hole because the vibrations from the drill are just going to make dust come off my painting. And I don't want that. So I screw it down nice and tightly, and then I just measure how far down from the top I am. And I usually go about, this is a 50 by 50 centimetre one frame, so I'm going down about 12 centimetres. And I'm going to do that on the other side too. I just make a little mark there with my craft knife. Move those out of your way, and I will screw that one down. And that's just so when I put the wire on, it's going to be nice and level. Just a little bit of pressure on there. If you do have to pre-drill the holes, because you've got a very solid wooden frame, then just mark it before you put everything in and pre-drill them before you do all the rest of the framing, and then you don't have to worry about it afterwards. You need some wire. You can get this from your framing store as well. That'll be all enough. It's just an old wire I'm reusing. I'm right into recycling. And so this is wire that's covered with a little bit of plastic, and so you don't cut yourself on it. So I just cut it slightly bigger each end, thread it through here and round again, give it a tie off, pull it nice and tight, and then I just wrap that end right around the wire. Like so, so it's nice and tight around there. Come across to the other side, poke it through once, pulling it really tight, poke it through again, pulling it really tight, and then tie it off. Because it's plastic coated, it slides quite well, and then just wrap it around very close to each other all the way around. And then to finish it off, I just take a little piece of the framing tape, cut myself 2 squares, and wrap it around the joint, and then it's all sealed and you can't get any sharp edges. Let's finish that one off nicely. Do the same on the other side. Lovely. So here we have it, the finished painting. Just remember a couple of things. Make sure that it's acid-free, matte board and MDF you're using in your board frame, and if you're not sure, seal them off using a gesso acrylic paint or some varnish or sealer to seal it off. And make sure that you regularly check the glass as you're framing to make sure that there's no pastel dust on it, and also your front surface of your mat. And then when you're finished, remember to seal it with some tape. Hope you enjoyed that little demonstration of how to frame a pastel painting, and as I said, you can go to my blog and I'll have some information on there for you too. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye for now.